Around about 2 years ago, I got myself this HPI Trophy Flux truggy. I did get it as a rolling chassis version. It was supposed to be a 4S kit, but I decided to put a 6S motor and speed control in it, and I do not regret doing that. I put it through its paces. I upgraded quite a few things. I made a lot of modifications myself, but it did end up being quite a good 1/8 scale basher. But as you can see, guys, we are not here to talk about the Trophy Flux truggy. We are actually talking about the new 2022 HPI Vorza S. Now, this is a 1/8 scale truggy. It comes in 3 different versions. It comes in a Nitro, a Basic, and this S version. The difference between the Basic and the Nitro is just the motor. One's Nitro, one's electric. But the difference between this one and the other two is this one comes with some 7075 parts that the other ones don't come with. So what we'll do, as always, is get the car out of the box, take a look at all the parts, see what's new, see what's similar to the old versions, and then we'll get it outside and give it a good shakedown. I don't want to go too hard on it because I'm sure there's a few things I'm going to have to change for my preferences. So let's do this, guys. I cannot wait to take a look at this car. And guys, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, subscribe if you want to, hit the bell if you want to see my up and coming videos, and I'll definitely get back to any comments and questions as soon as possible. Now, where else will we start but talk about the new body style from HPI? It looks fantastic in my opinion. I like all 3 colors, the green, the orange, and the red. First saw the spoiler, the rear wing. In the box, it looked very strange, but when I got the car out and put it on the bench, it looked much better. It does suit the car. I think it looks pretty good. One thing I noticed straight away, without actually taking off the shell, was the suspension. Now, they really haven't set it up right. This is wound all the way down and they're extremely soft. But as you can see, there is one more mounting point closer to the center of the car, as well as on the rear, so we will be able to get a little bit more height just by changing them mounting points. Be aware, if you're not one to read instructions, these screws, the black ones here and the silver ones here, are different thread. These silver ones are actually counterclockwise thread. They're reverse thread screws. As you can see there, one is counterclockwise and one is not marked, so that is a normal thread screw. The new wheels and tires look pretty good. They're not really offset, but it is extremely wide already, this car. The tires look great. They are very grippy and there's a lot of foam in there, so I think they're going to be very good. Now guys, the basic layout actually looks very similar to the old Flux truggy. That's not a bad thing. The only thing I can see here that they probably should have done was put a center brace from tower to tower, because all these new bashers, you know, people are starting to go really hard on them, and you do want as much strength as possible. But I can do that myself. It's not hard to add a center brace if you really want one. So as I mentioned with this one, you do have the additional 7075 shock towers. You have a 4mm thick 7075 chassis with a little bit of weight reduction at the back here. And it also looks like they've made the Ackerman 7075 as well, which is excellent. The servo saver is quite substantial. That should be very effective. SS40WP waterproof servo. As you can see, the Vorza has an 8kg servo and the Vorza S has a 10kg servo. Now, as you can see, HPI have gone with the clamp style motor mount, very similar to what Traxxas have just used for the sledge. I know people aren't really a fan of these motor mounts. I've not tried one yet, so I can't really make a decision. Hopefully it's all good. One thing I did notice that I really like is they reused or kind of remade the old style front bumper, which is excellent. It's an extremely strong front bumper. I'm glad they went with that. But they haven't added a rear bumper this time, which is kind of disappointing. I definitely like the addition of the rear bumper on the old Trophy Flux truggy. Sway bars front and back, super thick swing arms, super beefy tie bars, front CVDs, and we just have dog bones on the rear. One other thing they added to this car that they didn't add to the other 2 versions, the aluminium shock bodies here. I'm sure the plastic ones are fine, but I'm glad that I got the aluminium ones. I probably need them. We have the Flux ELH 4 to 6 cell 150 amp speed control. They've gone with the Flux MLH 220 kV 6 cell motor. One massive benefit is the cooling fan mounts here As you can see, there's one on top and one on the side, so you can actually run 2 fans on the motor, which is excellent. Front, mid and rear differentials with hardened steel diff gears. As you can see, we have 17mm wheel hex and the traditional HPI steering, the carrier and hub design, rather than the typical 1/8 steering you'd see these days, the dual ball knuckle. On the rear, we have very familiar HPI style rear hubs. One slight letdown is they have not added any aluminium braces. Front and rear are both plastic, as well as the mounting points. That's why I thought maybe a tower to tower center brace would be the way to go. That will prevent any of those plastic braces from snapping. But as you can see, guys, there is a small selection of upgraded parts in the manual. Some of these parts are already on the S version, but there are a couple more that you can add to make it even stronger. In the box, you'll also get all the information you need. The HPI racing instruction manuals are extremely detailed, very good. Every single thing you need to know in there. A glow plug wrench or wheel wrench. You have a 1.5mm, a 2mm, a 2.5mm and a 3mm Allen key. We have 4 1.2mm shock pistons and 4 1.4mm shock pistons to change the dampening and the rebound on your suspension. They also include a 23 and a 24 tooth servo horn, just in case you want to run an aftermarket servo. And we have the controller and 4 AA's to go with it, which is excellent. Now, I'm not familiar with the HPI electronics, but this controller from the old HPIs, this definitely looks like a change. Now, obviously, we've got proportional throttle and reverse, proportional steering, got an on and off button at the back here, which is pretty cool. We have got a 3rd channel switch there. And up the top here, we have all our reverse switches, our trim, steering dual rate, and bind button. Now, I have been out for the first test with this car. It was really wet, it was raining at the time, but I can definitely say I like the way it handles just from that little run. It handles a lot like the old Trophy Flux truggy, but one thing is obvious, the suspension definitely needs some work. It needs stiffer springs. Most likely it will need thicker shock oil because it is extremely soft. The way it's set up at the moment though would probably be good for racing or just flat ground bashing around, but I definitely would not suggest take it over big jumps and stuff. I checked the chassis, it is completely straight. It has got a few little scratches, no actual indentations or gouges. So I think this is legit 4mm 7075 aluminium, which is fantastic. That should last a long time. One thing I should mention is the system, the electronic system is absolutely flawless. I had no glitches, no dropouts, like signal dropouts. The motor, the speed control, they're absolutely perfect. So I will leave the stock system in there for now until I find it needs upgrading because I've added too much weight or something like that. Because as I said, I will be adding a center brace. I'll probably change the wheels eventually because I have got some other truggy wheels that I would love to try on this car. And the suspension is going to have to change as well. So the springs may be heavier, I'm not sure. That's obviously not going to add too much weight, but it's still adding a little bit. I did say I wanted to test some different wheels, but these are really good wheels. They're quite good for the wet, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be really good for the dirt as well. Everything seems to be pretty strong, so I can't really say much more than that until I take it out again. So I'll get it all set up to my preferences, get the center brace on there, get all the suspension fixed up, and take it out for another bash. I cannot wait for that, guys. Keep an eye out. I'm sure it's going to be a good one. But guys, there is one thing. I cannot do a speed test at the moment because I actually broke my GPS system. It is a tiny little soldering job, but I may be able to fix it. If not, I'm going to have to save up and get a new GPS, but I will do that as soon as possible. Stick around because I will chuck a little bit of footage at the end of this. But for now, guys, cheers. Catch us in the next video, and as always, stay safe. Well, guys, at least we get to test out whether it's waterproof or not. It's fast and it sounds great. Yeah, the shocks are way too soft for this sort of bashing. We've got a stick. You can barely see Vorza S now.